don't for one second think that I don't have bad days. There was days when I felt really depressed and stuck. I'd left everything behind, probably the closest I've felt to being depressed.
Hi everyone, this is Silesh Ram, AsianCultureVulture.com. I'm delighted to be joined by Jay Shetty, storyteller all over the internet.
Jay, you're amazing.
Jay, how would you describe yourself?
Silesh, my intention's simple. I just really want to help people train their mind for peace and purpose every day. And the way I try and do that is I spend a lot of time with a lot of ancient texts, thousands of year old literatures, and try and figure out what we can learn from them so that we can practice them in our modern lives today.
You've just released a book. Why isn't it called Think Like Jay Shetty instead of Think Like a Monk?
Well, I don't think that I'd be doing pretty well if I was thinking like myself. I think that the mindset of a monk is really powerful. Studies show that monks have the happiest, calmest, most compassionate brains on the planet because they're the highest form of gamma waves. And so for me, I'm fascinated by monks and how they think. And at the same time, I'm fascinated by the wisdom that they learn. And I really believe that when you tap your mind into that wisdom, you start knowing how to deal with challenges and situations. And this wisdom's been there for thousands of years. So for me, that's worked. It's tried and tested. Let's share that.
And why a book? Because you obviously do a lot of videos, podcasts.
I've been a big fan of books my whole life. I remember the first two books I ever read one of them was the autobiography of David Beckham. And the other one was the autobiography of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And those were the first two books I read properly. I dabbled in Harry Potter and Goosebumps growing up, but those were the two first books that really left an impression on me.
Right.
And I just see such a strength and power in books. And at the same time, when I started creating content in 2016, making videos, and then last year launched my podcast, my community and audience was just saying, Jay, when's your book coming out? Are you writing a book? And
Right.
I could see that people still really value having something that they can hold in their hands, they can flick through and make notes in. And I've seen that in the last 24 hours since we launched the book, the community has responded so beautifully.
And I think you kind of open up a bit, and there's a lot more about you and your particular journey. I mean, I know it's not an autobiography in that in a traditional sense, but it feels like a reflective, meditative journey on where you are today.
Yeah, it's got a lot of elements in it where I can share from my personal story. And that's definitely because I wanted everyone who's engaged in my community across the world to get to know me better, because I think that that's the beauty of a book, that you can really kind of go into all these themes. You can't do that in a 4-minute video. And so being able to do that in a book was really powerful. And the only reason for that was, just so that people get to understand me better, where I'm coming from, my background. Because I think for a lot of us, it's really easy to be like, or it's really hard sometimes to think, oh yeah, that worked for Jay, but then what about me? And I constantly want to remind myself and everyone else that, hey, there was days when I felt really depressed and stuck. Right. There were days when I was really anxious and nervous about what was happening in my life. And so I've been there. I know what that feels like. And don't for one second think that I don't have bad days. And I think that's what I wanted the book to reflect, that I have my own challenges, and I have had my own challenges. And so yours may be different, and they may even be worse than mine, but we can all work out it together.
So when you made that radical shift of deciding to go and spend time in India with monks and live at least in your holidays, and then devoting your life as a monk after you graduated, I understand, then what made you want to do that? And is that very much part of the book? Do you explain that turning point, as it were?
Absolutely. I explained the whole journey in Think Like a Monk. And the reason why I explain that journey is because almost becoming a monk is like one of the biggest rebellions in society, because it's almost like saying, I don't agree with what's happening and I'm going to try something else. Right. And the reason why I share that example is that even if you don't want to be a monk, I believe that all of us inside of us are trying to rebel against the story we've been told since we were born. If you were told like, oh, you had to become this, or you had to chase this, and in your heart, you don't want that. And so even if you don't want to become a monk, the mindset of a monk needed to break out of those limits and barriers is really useful. And that's why I share my journey, to hopefully for you to see parallels, whether you want to be an artist or whether you want to be a fashion designer. For me, being a monk and being those things is similar in the sense that you're breaking the mold.
So you brought up artists, and obviously I interview a lot of artists, so it's great to be interviewing you because you are an artist. I feel you're a great storyteller, and you have a very important tale to tell in many ways. But for you, is there anybody that stands out for you, and you think that you've felt their influence in some ways?
Yeah, I think there's people, everyone from Martin Luther King through to Steve Jobs, who I'm massively inspired by. And when you read both their books, you find about their lives, you'll find so much, especially in Steve Jobs' life, his so much interaction with monks, his interaction with Eastern wisdom, his time spent. There's a beautiful story that Mark Zuckerberg tells, actually, of when he went up to his mentor, Steve Jobs, in 2009 and told him about the struggles he was having with Facebook. And he asked Steve Jobs, what should I do? And instead of Steve Jobs telling him to get more money or get more funding, Steve Jobs said, you need to go to India and live in this ashram, and you'll find the answer for the direction of Facebook. Wow. And Mark Zuckerberg did that. And so you'll find so many stories inspired in, even if you look at Tesla, so we know the car Tesla, but that's based off the famous scientist Nikola Tesla. Right. And he spent time with Swami Vivekananda. Right. And they had so many conversations around how science could actually be used to prove a lot of what the Vedas were talking about thousands of years ago. So you see throughout history, whether it's technology people, whether it's musicians and artists, so many people have been inspired by Eastern teachings and the monk teachings as well.
So when you came out of the monk life and back into kind of normal life, for want of a better word, how difficult or easy was that transition? And again, is that something you draw upon in the book, and you go into some detail, because there must have been a massive shift again?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest stages of my life, because I'd left everything behind. I'd left behind the opinions of everyone, expectations of everyone. And when I came back, it was almost like they were all right. And it was almost a reaction from my, some of my people that I knew. And my parents have always been amazing. My parents are so incredible at supporting me. But my extended community may have been a bit like, well, you failed at being a monk. Like, what's going on? And so really it was one of the lowest points in my life, probably the closest I've felt to being depressed.
Right.
And that reintegration took me about 10 months, because I also got rejected from 40 companies before interview.
Oh, I see, right.
Because no one wanted to hire someone. Surprise, surprise, no one wanted to hire someone with monk on their CV. And so it took me a real time. And that was when I started to practice the monk lessons in my life. Right. And so in the book, what I do is I share with you the exact lessons and practices that I did in the real world that we live in today, and how the monk wisdom actually applies in the world today.
How important is meditation to that? Because again, in the book, you go into the meditation 21 minutes in the morning, maybe 21 minutes at the end, as you're building up. How easy or difficult is that? I mean, you obviously preach that to a lot of people. Preach might be the wrong word, but you obviously are a big proponent of that, and it has major benefits. But for a busy person, 21 minutes, 42 minutes, that's quite a lot of time, they would think.
Yeah, I think we think it's a lot of time when we haven't done it yet, because then we realize how much it helps us make more out of our time when we have done it. So let's think about this. You wake up in the morning, you have a million things to do, just like I do. Yeah. I'm going to give you a snapshot of, I want to show you this, just to make people realize that I'm applying it in the real world. This is my schedule.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of, I've got a lot of stuff on, and I really value meditation in my life as a pillar. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, look how amazing I am. I'm saying it's like, I wouldn't be able to live without it. Right. And that's why it's so important. So imagine you wake up, you've got a busy schedule like that, and you start your day and you start thinking, oh gosh, I've got this on, and I've got that, and I've got to run to that. And all of a sudden you're in a negative spiral. Yeah. What if you just took out 10 minutes, 20 minutes before that to just get clear, get calm, get balanced, and then you went into it? I promise you, you will save way more than 20 minutes. And that's the difference. If you walk into a room and your energy is all over the place, everyone will feel it. If you walk into a room and you're calm and composed, everyone will feel it. And that's happening every day in our lives. We walk into places carrying the negativity of the last meeting or schedule or appointment.
What next for you? Well, where are you? How do you stop yourself from becoming a mega kind of corporation like Facebook or something like that? Because it seems that you're almost everywhere in some respects. And I wonder whether you can maintain the Jay Shetty who was a monk.
It's a daily challenge, and it's something that I have to work on every day. It's not going to be easy, because, hey, there's so many opportunities and options in the world. But to me, I have a really good group of mentors around me that
Right.
constantly hold me to a higher standard. I have a great group of advisors in my life. My wife and I go back to the ashram I used to live at in India every year for about 2 to 3 weeks to get
Wow.
rooted
Okay.
again.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I'm really still connected with the monks. And the best thing about the monks is they don't care about anything I'm doing. So there's
Yeah.
just like you get really liberated when you go there. But hey, it's a daily commitment to be aligned. And I request your prayers. I request everyone's prayers that I can continue to do that and continue to be of service in the world, because that's the only reason why I'm doing all of this. So, and at the same time, there's a beautiful statement by Martin Luther King where he said that those that love peace need to learn to organize themselves as well as those who love war.
Right.
And I think that's the part that's been missing for a long time, that the ones, and apart from him, he achieved that beyond anything. But for a lot of people who love peace and love, we kind of stay a bit woo-woo and a bit like, and it's like, but I think doing the right thing and trying to do it in a really strategic way, in a really focused way, and keeping the integrity is the goal. So I'm not saying I'm there. I'm just saying that's the aspiration, that how can we be sincere and strategic? How can we work from our head and our heart? How can we be compassionate and courageous? I think we need both.
It must be a strange world to go from LA and all the La La Land and all that to your ashram in India and spending time there. How, again, is there a period of adjustment, or is that the kind of, the sort of world that you inhabit, that you need both?
My heart and my mind is always in the ashram and thoughts of the ashram. And, in the sense that every day I wake up and I remind myself why I live in LA currently. I lived in New York for 2 years and then moved to LA 2 years ago. Yeah. And I really feel that for me, LA's been an incredible place to help me serve my purpose. And to me, I never imagined living in anywhere apart from North London, where I grew up. That's where I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life.
Do you miss?
I've just gone. Sorry.
You miss London?
I miss my family. My family's there. My mom, my mom and dad, and my sister are there. My wife's parents and family, and our niece and nephew are there, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and my uncle, and everyone. And all my best friends are in London. So I have such a like London's home, right? Like I spent all the way up until the age of 21. I lived in London the whole time.
Yeah, right.
So London's a massive part of my life, and I come back. Before all of this, I used to come back every 3 months. So I'm looking forward to being able to visit again.
Well, I wish you well with the book.
Thank you, Sam.
What was your kind of final message about the book, and why people should buy it, engage with it?
I'd say if you've loved my videos, if my podcast has had an impact on you, then the book kind of weaves it all together. So if you've already connected with my work and engaged with it and it's meant something to you, the book takes it to another level and it deepens our relationship. And it's really for anyone who wants to remove anxiety, reduce stress, and find peace and purpose in their life.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you again.
Soon. Yeah. Take care.